Hi there, welcome to today's episode. Are you planning an event or you were thinking about it? In fact, I would like to take a step further that even you are not planning an event, but you are really thinking about how can you level up the experience for your clients. If so, then you will love today's episode. Today we have a special guest. He is the expert of the experts when it comes to planning the events. Phil Merchant is the Director of Experience for Social Media Examiner. He has been designing the social media marketing world experience for over a decade. So now, let's check with Phil. Now, I think a lot of times though, especially the high achievers, leaders, when they think about, wow, this project, right, I'm gonna execute it, and they start to think about all the logistics. But I think it's very easy to overlook about emotion, right? And I think you stress the creating the powerful moments, meaningful experience in your book. So can you kind of elaborate and tell us about how to use the unexpected elements, emotional leverage and so on, to creating that memorable experiences? And while you are thinking on that, I just can share about my part is like, again, working in the luxury hotels, right? So for example, before that, and my husband too, he was working with Ritz-Carlton, right? And I was working for Grand Hyatt. And I remember in Grand Hyatt, we have a slogan say, delight your guest. Delight your guest. And then in Ritz-Carlton is, we are the ladies and gentlemen serving ladies and gentlemen, right? So, so tell us, how do we create that, memorable moments and the special, powerful experience?
Let me start with a story from the Ritz-Carlton. So when I lived in Georgia, I lived out on Lake Oconee, and there's a Ritz-Carlton property there. I think it's called the Plantations or something like that. And I knew the general manager. So he invited me to come out for lunch. And when I pulled up, the valets knew I was coming. They said, "Oh, hello, Mr. Mershon. Let me show you where to park your car." And then I came inside, and somebody inside knew my name. They say, "Follow me. Let me take you. Mr. Freund is expecting you." And every person along the way knew who I was, which put me at ease because I have never sat at a meal that had like 3 or 4 forks and spoons. And this was like lunch. I just came for lunch, a burger and fries. And here's this whole spread, which was really uncomfortable for me because I've not been in that situation. But every person knew who I was and wanted to make sure I had a great experience. Mr. Freund, the manager, had obviously told everybody, but I suspect that's the way they make everybody feel when they come in. Contrast that with an experience I had at a hotel chain that I won't even mention because I don't want to put them in trouble, where I was an inconvenience. I went in to check in. They said, "Well, your room's not ready yet," which was understandable. I was early. They said, "Come back in 2 hours." And I did. I came back in 2 hours and I stood at the front desk, and they were behind me. Kelly, there was a table of 4 people who clearly worked at the hotel sitting there on lunch break in the lobby, and they all ignored me. Now, somewhat to their credit, there was a sign on the counter that said, "Call this number," but they were sitting there. They could have gone and got somebody, or they could have said something. They ignored me. And at that point, I felt like I was a complete inconvenience until a visiting manager who was there training the staff came out and said, "Oh, Mr. Mershon, it's so good to see you. How can I help you?" And she gave me like bonus reward points for having to wait. She turned that awkward moment into a great moment, but it also showed me the power of training staff. And she said her whole reason for being there was training staff. So why do I share those 2 stories? Because I think they show the power of an emotional connection with your guest. And you talked about what we do at our conference is every staff member is trained to make somebody's day. Like go out of your way to do for one person what you wish you could do for everyone. That's what I tell them. And every person should come back at the end of every day with at least one story of something they did for somebody that turned their day around or was a surprise and delight moment, something that they could do that someone wasn't expecting. All those things help to predispose somebody to being open to bigger things. Now, if we back up for a second into the science of this, the science of memory making, so there's a couple things that are at stake when we're making memories. One is we want to tap into the senses. We want to do something that's multisensory. Most events focus on visual and audio, and that's not bad because visual plus audio is better than one or the other. And visual is a higher percent of us are visual learners than auditory. Those are the two biggest. But if you want to make something memorable, then you need to tap into tactile. Get them touching something, doing something. You want to tap into the smells are the most powerful. And then obviously you want to tap into taste if you can. So if you can get someone tasting something, you can get them actually smelling something. That's going to be your strongest connection to memory. And the more memorable we can make it, the more chance it has to change us. Kelly, your audience are all Christian CEOs, and I'm a former pastor. So I was thinking about this. What are some of the most unforgettable things that ever happened in the Bible? I mentioned one when the sun stood still, but the parting of the Red Sea. Parting of the Red Sea is totally unforgettable. How could you walk through that and be the same person? And yet, what happened? 30 days later, they're grumbling. They want to go back. They've forgotten how bad it was before they went through the Red Sea. So what's happening there? They have not been intentionally remembering. Now, God made the most impressionable memory maker in the world. And this is what's true. Like you can make the most unforgettable experience at your event. And if you don't have ways to reinforce it, it really doesn't matter. There's a German psychologist named Ebbinghaus who created the forgetting curve. This is back in the late 1800s, but it still proves today. He discovered that within 30 days, we will have forgotten 90% of what we've learned and experienced at an event without reinforcement. So when you're designing an event and you're wanting it to change people's lives, then you need to have a plan for what's next. How are they going to reinforce this? They probably won't remember everything, Kelly. They may only remember a few things. So if you've got something you want them to remember, then you need to bake that in. If it's more of a self-discovery and they need to decide what's important for them to remember, then how are they going to have a plan? Because most people, when they get back to the office, are going to move to the next thing. So without a plan, without some kind of way to reinforce, we will forget, and it will have been a lot of wasted effort. And that's one of my missions. I say there's no more boring events, but by boring, I mean forgettable. I don't mean the ones that put you to sleep, because none of us want to go to those. And yes, we should stamp those out too. But I mean the unimpactful, which could have all the lights and bells and all the amazing things that you talk about when you get back, but it didn't change you. Then why? Why put all that money into it unless it leads to something more?
That is so powerful. And I think you guys by now probably can figure you need to buy that book and buy another 10 copies to the people you care or you know that they're going to run events. But for me, actually, it's not only run events. It can be run, it just because inside this book have so many things can help all the CEOs and leaders, as long as you are serving people. Well, if you're in business, you are serving people. And for me, even I don't necessarily run events, but I would like to read this book to enhance my post-purchase experience for my clients. I think this is very, very important. A lot of courses and material out there, resources, is all talk about how to get clients. But I always talk about how about after you get them, how you serve them. And so they will come back and they will tell people about the wonderful experience. And if you like this video and this episode, please make sure you like, subscribe, and share with others so more crisis center leaders have the opportunity to consume this type of valuable content. Before I go, I just want to remind you that you can click on the screen, go to the next business growth videos, and I will see you in the next episode.